So my first book is called Practice is the Pathway to Perfection. And so this kind of segues into what inspired me to write books.
Really?
So I've always wanted to write books, but I was actually incarcerated in federal prison. And one day I was in the chapel library. I said, I'm going to write a book, So everything starts with now. So I wrote I decided that I was going to write a book in 30 days. I wrote a chapter every day for 30 days. This was 2017, but I didn't actually publish the book until 2021.
As far as AI is concerned, have you started integrating AI into your writing structures?
Yes, I have actually, because I mean, it's really a no-brainer. And what's really important, because I see a lot of people say, well, I can just write a book with AI. Well, why haven't you?
Correct.
You see, there's a lot of steps to it. So prompting is very important. Prompt engineering.
Correct. Now, which AI tool do you typically use for book writing?
Okay, so I use two. I use ChatGPT and I use Gemini.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because one corrects my work.
Correct.
So I can put a prompt into ChatGPT, for example, to write a chapter. Well, let me just preface it with this. Each chapter starts with authentic content.
Information, correct.
Right. So you have to have some authentic content.
Well, I'd like to say welcome to another episode of Beyond Potential. We have a real exciting guest, but before we get started, I would like for you to hit subscribe and like, because we work really hard for you all to bring you this content. And having said that, we have a real exciting guest I've been looking forward to talking to, Mr. Greg L. Thomas himself. Man, we've been trying to do this for a long time, haven't we?
Absolutely.
Wow,
Yes,
I know
sir.
you're pretty busy. Tell you a little bit about Greg. Greg is a serial entrepreneur. He have worked in many different organizations in terms of business-wise. He has set up several different types of business. He is a very accomplished author. In fact, he's the publisher of my book, which I haven't shared with you yet, The Basic Building Blocks for Wealth, and I'll be getting that out real soon, which is currently on Amazon. But that's my publisher. So that's why we've been trying to do this for quite a while. But Greg, welcome. Welcome to Beyond Potential.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Good, it's good.
Yeah, this is a nice setup here. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Man, we've been working on this thing for a little while, and we've kind of got motivated by social podcasts. Mr. David Sands, a gentleman out of Atlanta, he does a very good job with a podcast, and I've been kind of following him. And of course, me and Joe, we sat down and talked about just jumping in. In fact, we're heading to the podcast summit in the next couple of days. So we were motivated. I mean, this brother is really sharp in what he does. And so
David Sands, that's the tall brother with the glasses?
that's correct.
Yes,
That's correct.
he has a podcast studio set up in
called
Atlanta.
called
He
social.
mentors.
Social podcast.
Yeah. I've seen him. I've watched some of his interviews. He's
pretty
an
good.
interesting guy.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
He's
So
almost like comedic in a way.
He is. Yeah. And you get a lot of good guests on there, but we were really motivated by just the information that he shared. Why companies should get into podcasting. In fact, I don't see any other way to really market a person's business. And for persons in business, they should find a way to do a podcast, because it's just instant credibility, actually. And so, but yeah, we're here. We're excited. I guess this is about episode 3. So I'm excited that I got you in this early. Rest assured, I'll have you back, because you have so much vast abilities in a lot of areas of business that and we're just going to kind of cover a few topics. What we designed this podcast to do is to talk to the business owner that have so many different obstacles in business today. And anytime that we can give them a tip or help them to take it to the next level, that's what we intend for this podcast to do. So in the course of it, just kind of feel free to give whatever advice that could help entrepreneurs, those that are getting started in the business, in different areas that you have basically put together. Okay. So anyway, let's talk tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell the audience.
My name is Greg L. Thomas. You pretty much summed it up. I'm a serial entrepreneur.
Okay. As my father called it, a jack of all trades, master of none. That's what he called me.
Yeah, let me give you my interpretation of that. So when I say serial entrepreneur, I'm kind of like a hopeless romantic. I'm an entrepreneur, but it's not always profit driven. I just have a passion for it.
Okay.
And so, when I go down these rabbit holes, with different business models, for me, it's about changing the world, and I
Right.
think that when you really have a passion for something, profit comes along with that. That's just one of the byproducts of it.
You've been very successful at it, though. And you've been doing this basically for how many years? How long have you been in the entrepreneurial sector? And what drives that, too? What drives that passion?
Okay. So, true story. When I was 9 years old, I had a paper route.
Okay.
I was in Rockford, Illinois, and had a paper route for the Buyer's Guide. And since I was a kid, I don't know. I think it's something inherent because my brothers and sisters, don't have it. I was never taught to be a businessman. It was just something as a kid that I've always had a desire to, it started off with just making money. But obviously, as you get older, it becomes, bigger than just money. But to answer your question, it was just an inherent desire from a kid.
Okay.
I don't know where it came from. My dad wasn't an entrepreneur.
But how did you keep it going?
Okay, I'll start. When I was 19 years old, I started selling cars at Town East Ford.
Oh, wow.
I got into sales, and I was salesman of the month my first month there. By the time I was 21, I was in finance.
Okay.
And so when I stopped selling cars, I started buying and selling cars. That's actually when I met your brother.
That's right. Yeah,
And,
you and my brother had a long history in buying and selling cars.
Yeah, so I started buying and selling cars, and it just escalated from there. I started a direct sales company. So when I used to sell cars, there was this guy who used to come in the dealership. His name was a tie guy.
Okay.
So he used to sell ties to car salesmen.
Mm-hmm.
And so just one day I was driving up Stemmons Freeway and I saw some office space for rent, and I just jumped out there. I just jumped in the deep end. That's part of my motto.
Wow.
And
Didn't look back.
didn't look back. I started buying and selling ties from Royal Lane, and one day they sold me a box of ties. I think it was like 12 dozen ties, and they had the address to their supplier in New York.
So that was it.
That was it. And then just from there, I've just turned here and there, real estate, car sales, and then I just, started to graduate from there.
Okay. I was reading in one of your books, you have a core philosophy about yourself. Tell me a little bit about that core philosophy.
Well, I live by honor, respect, loyalty, and my word.
Okay.
Those are the principles that I live by. And I just believe that, everyone should have some type of constitution or, rules that you live by, that you govern yourself by. And that's just something that, just inherently in me, living by honor, respect, loyalty, and my word. Because I believe that, manners will take you places money can't take you.
Oh, pretty well put. How do you apply that in your business models, though?
Well, just, dealing with everyone the way I would want to be, treated. And,
Okay.
Just being honest and just, standing on, what I believe in, losing the deal sometimes.
Okay. That's really hard to find in business people today. But yeah, I really appreciate those core principles. Let's talk a little bit about the real estate market. When was the last time you had a chance to dabble in that?
It's been a while.
What were your experiences like in the real estate market? What drove you to go to real estate?
Well, real estate is ever changing. First of all, it's a market that's of course right now it's not it's
Kind of stagnant, yeah.
Well, I was trying to get my thoughts together. What I was trying to say is there's so many different things that you can do in the real estate market.
Right.
You have loans. You have when people say real estate, a lot of times people just think about houses, but
True.
There's a plethora of things within the real estate sector that that can be considered real estate. So you have loans, you have commercial real estate. You have
Let's talk about the loans.
estate.
If an individual was trying to get into real estate or currently in real estate, what would be because I know you have some lending history, what would be the best advice you would throw out there to an individual?
If a person was trying to get a loan for their own
Let's say a
home,
fix and
or-
flip. Let's say a fix and flip.
Okay, so they have these loans called DSCR loans now.
Okay.
Okay, it's a new lending product that they have, and basically someone can they can compound the rental history or project what the rental history would be, and they
through
can
that
qualify for a DSR loan to it's kind of like a hard money loan,
Okay.
but
Do you have like longer terms, like maybe a 5-10 year term?
yeah, you
tied
have
to
a little longer term, whereas a hard money loan is usually up to about 6 months. But a DSCR
6 months to
loan
a
is
year,
more like if you're trying to buy and hold, the DSCR loan would actually suffice.
What is the typical interest rates on those? Do they greatly vary just under hard money?
Yeah, they're about the same. I mean, it's the cost of doing business. When you're taking private money. You know, it's considered private money, just like our money.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, yeah,
But just typically they give you extend your period of time. Now, is that all interest bearing, interest only, or is that principal and interest once you go into those type loans?
It's a combination of both. They have interest only loans with the balloon payment.
Okay.
And then they have, you know, interest and principal.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so they have a combination of both.
Let's jump into Greg, the author and publisher. What inspired you to write, author, and publish the books that you have? If you don't mind, just kind of rattle off what the name of your books are.
Okay, so my first book is called Practice is the Pathway to Perfection. And so this kind of segues into what inspired me to write books.
Really?
So I've always wanted to write books, but I was actually incarcerated in federal prison. And one day I was in the chapel library. And I said, I'm going to write a book, you know. So everything starts with now. So I wrote I wrote my first chapter, and I decided that I was going to write a book in 30 days.
Really?
And so, yeah, I wrote a chapter every day for 30 days. This was 2017. But I didn't actually publish the book until 2021 because, you know, obviously being incarcerated, I didn't know anything about publishing.
Right.
And what I found out is that most people outside don't know much about publishing either.
Right.
So in 2021, I went to a federal camp, and, you know, we were able to have, you know, illegal phones, not legally, but everybody had a phone. So, you know, me getting hold to a phone was like a kid in a candy store. You know, I was able to take that phone and I was able to, by trial and error, perfect publishing in a nutshell.
Really?
Yes, sir.
So you're telling me you were in federal prison, had the desire, and then they messed around and gave a mastermind a phone.
They messed around and gave a mastermind a phone. And man, I'm telling you,
That's amazing.
people can't believe it. You know, I mean, it blows people's mind when I tell them not only did I write and publish a book, but I wrote and published 6 books
Really?
of my own. And then I started ghostwriting for other guys, you know, that were incarcerated. So
Really?
you know, I've written, you know, written and published, you know, over 12 books while I was incarcerated.
That's remarkable.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really
6
remarkable.
for me personally, but
Okay. So tell me, is that a passion now for you in terms of writing and publishing? Are you still driven to do that?
oh yeah, that's I think it's probably my least profitable, but my number one passion.
Really?
Yes.
So if I have a listener that wants to get into publishing, because in the entrepreneurial space, it's really highly encouraged to publish a book to make you out as an authority figure. For someone to go into publishing their own book or writing their own book as it relates to their business or the service that they provide, what type of information would you give them? What benefits would that be for individuals to do that?
To write a book or how to write a book?
Well, how to write a book or to write a book or why to write a book that will help boost them perhaps in their marketing, boost them in their sales approach.
Okay, so what I've found with the people that I've written books for, mostly personal development, the book serves more as a person of influence booster. So, you know, obviously, you know, if you have a book, it kind of gives you a certain sense of credibility as an expert.
Correct.
But if a person was actually trying to write a book, self-publish themselves, for me, you know, I was incarcerated, so I don't know if you've ever heard of Fiverr.
Yes.
Yeah, so I outsourced a lot of the work, you know, the editing, the formatting, the book covers, to Fiverr, you know, and
you're telling me you can write a book, put everything together right through Fiverr.
Right through Fiverr.
And all these years, people were charging thousands of dollars to do the exact same thing.
Absolutely. For the most part, people aren't willing to spend the time to learn certain things. There's certain nuances to it, like the ISBN number, for instance.
Okay.
So Amazon has a free ISBN number, but you know you can buy an ISBN number that allows you to move your book around to different platforms. You can sell it, you know, nationwide.
Okay.
And so there's little nuances like that, but
you're on Amazon and what other platform?
Just Amazon.
Just Amazon.
Yeah,
so if somebody wanted your books, how would they be able to get those books?
Well, they can just go to my website, greglthomas.net.
greglthomas.net. Okay.
Yes, and all of my books.
And we'll definitely put a link in the description below so you'll have access to Greg Thomas directly.
Yeah, so all of my books are on my website, greglthomas.net, but they're directly linked to Amazon as well. So if you go on my site and click order books, you'll actually see the books, and you can just click on it and it'll take you directly to the Amazon site.
Okay. So going back to an entrepreneur that has a business that can enhance his visibility or his authority or marketing, your suggestions to that individual would be what?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a necessity. It just depends on what you're trying to achieve, first of all. You know, if you're a mechanic, you own a mechanic shop, you know, then obviously, you know, writing a book may not be, you know, conducive to what you're trying to do unless it's just a self-fulfilling personal goal, you know, if you want to do a memoir or something like that, you know, which I do as well. But, you know, we're talking about...
Let's just say that someone's a coach or they are a motivational speaker, pretty much in the space that you write in. How would that benefit them?
Oh, it would tremendously. It would benefit them tremendously because, again, you know, the book gives you a certain level of credibility that it kind of helps you skip the line in a sense.
Correct.
So, you know, if you're just starting, you know, obviously, you know, you have to build up a reputation. People have to get to know you, but the book kind of puts you ahead of the line, you know, whereas people know that, you know, for you to write a book that it requires, it's kind of like going to college, like somebody hiring a college graduate versus someone who didn't graduate college. Well, they know that that college graduate put forth, you know, a certain amount of discipline. You know, they had to study for a certain amount of hours and, you know, they had to put in the work. And that's kind of how people inherently view someone who has written a book. They just automatically view them as an expert, even if they're not. You know?
Correct. Because somebody's taking the time to put in the paper, it does take a lot. Now, as far as AI is concerned, have you started integrating AI into your writing structures?
Yes, I have actually, because I mean, it's really a no-brainer. And what's really important, because you know, I see a lot of people say, well, you know, I can just write a book with AI. Well, why haven't you?
Correct.
You see, there's a lot of steps to it. So prompting is very important. Prompt engineering.
Correct.
So
explain that prompt engineering in writing a book.
Okay, so prompt engineering is the command that you're giving the AI.
Okay.
And so the more detailed your prompt is to AI, the more real results that you get.
Now, which AI tool do you typically use for book writing?
Okay, so I use two. I use ChatGPT and I use Gemini.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because one corrects my work.
Correct.
So I can put a prompt into ChatGPT, for example, to write a chapter. Well, let me just preface it with this. Each chapter starts with authentic content.
Information, correct.
Right. So you have to have some authentic content. But once you put the prompt in, the detailed prompt, what you want it to do, then you take that information and then you prompt the other AI, which, say, for example, I start with ChatGPT. I'll take that information, then I have another prompt and I'll run it through Gemini so that the content doesn't come out sounding like AI. But
you humanize it.
I humanize it, absolutely.
Yeah. I know when I'm putting some personal writings together, I ask it to humanize itself. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you said it in a nutshell. I mean, you just that one word right there just pretty much summed up what I was trying to explain, that you humanize it.
Correct.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
And you tailor it to that person. I mean, if that person, for example, you know, let's just say that they want an Ashley and Jaquavis type writing style. Okay. You know, I actually put that in there. If they want a Tony Robbins type writing style, but you know, with a little tinge of ghetto to it.
Wow.
You know, yeah, you have to.
You mean AI can get ghetto?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I can have you to write something, and I could take a copy of your writing and I could put it in AI, and then I can say, take that and add it to the prompt and write like this with, you know, a professional grade, you know, diction, so on and so forth.
Okay. Got it.
So it comes out sounding like the person. You know, the person, you know, sometimes they say, golly, Greg, you was writing like you was me.
Wow.
You know?
That's amazing.
And so that's it, you know, authentic content.
Okay.
Mixed with the AI.
Okay.
With a little correction.
Gotcha.
With master prompting.
So your editing, I noticed you said you also have someone else to actually do the editing. How does that work?
Well, that's when I first started off. My first few books, AI wasn't out yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so when I wrote my books, and when I
the old-fashioned way.
So let me clarify. When I wrote my books, I wrote them on pen and paper.
Oh, you were the real deal.
The real deal. Yeah, all of my books were wrote in pen and paper, and
Sleepless nights.
Then I had a little microphone where I actually talked it into Google Sheets
to
get it into digital form.
Okay.
And then I sent that. to the editor.
Okay.
And, through Fiverr.
Okay.
But now the editing space, I don't know. I think the editing space may be something that's overtaken by AI.
Okay.
Yeah, because now there's really no need to use an editor for my books, but I do use a professional formatter. And see, that's one of the keys to writing a book. Is the
Professional formatter,
Yeah,
right.
the format.
Because AI can't professionally lay it out to the way you want it, right?
Not in book format, because there's a certain way you have to send it,
Right.
based upon the measurements of the book. If it's a 6x9, if it's a 5.5 by 8.
Yeah, I just went through that. Yeah. Okay.
All of those things are very important, as
Right.
far as
So really,
formatting.
you can get through AI with a lot of different things, but not the book formatting. Okay. Now, what would you say to an individual as it relates to marketing strategy for their book, or do you really get into that?
Well, I don't really do marketing per se. Most of my books have been organic marketing. So,
And when you say organic, what do you mean by that?
I mean, from like word of mouth.
Okay.
Just friends, Facebook, YouTube.
Okay.
And so, when I do videos, like I do motivational videos, and I say, if you want to learn the frameworks that help me to, read my book.
Okay, gotcha. So you just drive them to the book. Now, you have a publishing company. What's your website?
It's GregThomasPublishing.com.
Okay. And what would they find on that website?
Oh, they'll find testimonials. They'll find all of the books that I've written on the site, and then they'll find the services that we actually provide.
Okay. So really, you can, for a busy entrepreneur, you really could be a one-stop shop for them, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I am a one-stop shop. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter what type of genre book that they're, whether it's personal development, memoir, biography.
And so if they reach out to you, they pretty much could get pricing and get set up through you to do that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if someone reached out to me, I could send them a one sheet that has my entire process.
Oh, great. Okay. Let's talk about another segment that you've jumped into, public speaking. How did you get into public speaking?
So public speaking was a fear that I had all my life.
Really?
Yes. I was terrified of public speaking.
I would have never thought that.
But I was extremely impressed by public speakers.
Okay.
And so I did speaking, but I didn't really have real frameworks.
Okay.
And so what I mean by frameworks,
go ahead.
I mean like modules and, speaking without notes. I just took it kind of to a whole nother level. But long story short, when I was incarcerated again, they had a Toastmasters chapter. And I joined Toastmasters, and I eventually became the president of the Toastmasters chapter.
Okay.
And not only I became obsessed with it, and I created my own course after Toastmasters called Beyond Toastmasters.
Okay.
And within that course I was teaching impromptu speaking, how to speak, off the top of your head, and how to speak without notes, how to use formats, and I just became obsessed with it.
Really?
And so
where are some of the not facilities, but events that you speak at now?
I speak at colleges, NIL. Name, image, and likeness with universities. They have a program. College students can monetize their name, image, and likeness.
Okay.
And so most of my speaking is based on risk prevention and risk mitigation. So
what do you mean by that?
Okay. So kids make bad decisions.
True.
And that risk is transferred to the university. And so universities spend money to prevent risk. Also, these kids, since NIL is new, it's kind of like a wild, wild west. So
Correct.
you have, for instance, NIL agents that don't have to be an attorney. So whereas a regular agent has to be an attorney, they have NIL agents.
Didn't know that.
And so oftentimes the NIL agents exploit, the college students. They charge them 20%.
Really?
Yeah. So
Is that typically a parent or it could be anyone?
Or it could be anyone. A lot of them are just hustlers, the NIL agents. I'm not an NIL agent. First of all, let me clarify that. But I was just trying to make a significant point that one of the things that I teach with the risk of prevention is how to avoid making bad decisions under pressure. That's, in a nutshell, that's what it is.
The school actually invites you in to do that?
Yes, the school actually invites me in, and they pay me. And so I either do a 60-minute keynote, which the keynote, my life is an operating system. So me being incarcerated, the decisions that I've made, me writing books while I was in prison, has put me in a unique position to be around people to learn how to avoid making bad decisions. So I share those lived experiences
Okay.
with college students and corporate as well. Because, obviously in the corporate arena, you have young executives that make bad decisions. See, because people think, Steve, that to go to prison, you have to actually intentionally commit a crime, right?
Correct.
Well, you know as well as I do that, you have people in prison that are in prison for intoxicated manslaughter. You can get drunk one night and be with the wrong people and kill somebody, and you can end up with 20 years in prison. I mean, we've seen attorneys, doctors,
right.
Even judges, in prison for making bad decisions under pressure.
Correct.
And so that's what my speaking engagements are. They focus on risk mitigation.
Okay, good. Decision making. I like that. Because in today's environment, you look on the news and bad decisions in a split second.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and it can happen to anyone, and, just through, carefully designed frameworks, thinking, and a lot of times it comes from belief.
I got you.
My whole framework is premised from what your beliefs are, because, I talk about alignment a lot of times, that belief and thoughts are two different things,
Okay.
You can believe a certain way and think a certain way, but you can behave, differently. But if your beliefs are centered, starting with self-love, of course, oftentimes, back to the college things, a lot of times the decisions that they make are based upon peer pressure.
Now, one of the things you also talk about is personal transformation. If a person wants to become an entrepreneur or who is a struggling entrepreneur, is any of that tied to personal transformation?
Oh, absolutely, because transformation, it encompasses mindset, beliefs. And so what I start with belief. What is your beliefs? Belief modification.
Okay.
And belief modification starts with self-love. Believe it or not, you'd be surprised at how many people appear to be confident and have inherent love for themselves, but they don't.
Correct.
But that's the core. That's the root cause of all the decisions that most people make. It starts with self-love and what do you really believe? And so that's where transformation starts. Transformation starts with self-love and belief modification. But yes, in a nutshell, to answer your question, transformation is definitely a prerequisite, actually.
What is one of the core topics in transformation would you say is the most pivotal part of just everyday life, entrepreneurial or not? What would you say the core backing of transforming would be?
I would have to say your mindset.
Mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, mindset would definitely be the core when you're talking about business, everyday life, because, mindset has to do with what your perception of reality is.
Good point.
And so, if you have a flawed perception of reality, then, your business relationships are going to be flawed. Everything is going to be flawed because it's a skewed perception.
Very good way of putting that. I appreciate that. Also, I understand you speak on business systems. What does that actually entail, business systems that you speak on?
So every business breaks down into three parts.
Okay.
And the first part is customer acquisition.
Okay.
What does your funnel look like? How are you actually acquiring customers?
Okay.
And then the second part is conversion. How are you going to convert those people that you've acquired into your funnel? And those are the sales systems.
Okay.
And then the next part is obviously, delivering on what it is that you say you offer.
Okay.
What are your systems for delivery?
Okay. And so in that process, is there one that trumps the other, or is that a three-pronged equal head, so to speak?
Oh, yeah, they all work in tandem, in conjunction with each other, because you can't have one without the other. I mean, you can't deliver someone a product or a service if you haven't acquired the customer first.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can't deliver something to somebody if you haven't sold them on it yet, if you haven't made them believe in what it is that you're selling. Mm. And so, yeah, they all work in conjunction. I mean, it's you can't have one without the other.
Gotcha. So business system is something that you go and you actually speak to businesses about that, correct?
I don't necessarily speak to businesses about business systems. I speak to businesses more about risk prevention.
Okay, gotcha.
But, that's certainly something that someone could speak to businesses about,
Okay.
But, normally in today's, 10 years ago, information was a real commodity. But, now with the advent of AI, people can pretty much look up what they want to look up, but they can't look up lived experiences.
Correct. That's true.
They can't look up risk prevention. They can't look up what I've experienced because that's unpredictable, what a person might do under pressure.
And, I see AI as a very useful tool and one that you have to have. But one thing that I know for a fact that I don't care how much information you look up, if you don't have the ability to process it and bring it to action, you're going to have some difficulty. I mean, you can read a book, but if you can't apply it, what is it for? And for that reason, isn't it important for individuals to streamline and get coaching or mentorship? What would you think?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because again, in retrospect to what I was saying about lived experiences, let's just take you for example. You are a well-accomplished businessman yourself. I mean, you've had a lot of experiences. There's certain things that you can't account for in theory. You can only correct it or rectify it, through the guidance of someone who's actually been there, done it.
Right.
So coaching is definitely necessary. I mean, yeah, of course, you can ask AI, but to implement it, you definitely need that lived experience. You need a coach or a mentor, someone who can guide you properly.
Okay, good. Because again, that's a topic that for our business owners out there, I would say right now, typically only 5% of companies and corporations have integrated AI into their companies. It's going to this AI is only going to become that much more advanced, and people need to learn it now. But at the same time, they need to be able to put it into practice. They need to be able to take what's in information form and put it into practice. Yeah,
and see, I mean, just to piggyback on what you were saying, again, implementers. AI can't implement right now. AI can can give you theory, but there's a real starving market for genuine implementers. Mm-hmm. People, such as yourself who have experience with business.
Right.
That can tell you about the things that you can't read about.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's kind of like playing football. Coach can tell you the X's and O's on the board, but what about variable change?
See, I have to tell you, I wasn't able to learn from AI. I learned from failure. My background is driven by everything I failed at. And if you haven't failed at something, I don't see how you can really be successful, because there's so many steps and missteps that happen in failure. It only takes one step to miss. And technically, you should learn from that misstep and that failure. So we've processed a lot of our success going forward from our previous failures. That's one of the things that entrepreneurs need to understand, that you're going to fail. You're going to have to start all over. And sometimes you'll have to burn the bridge behind you just to keep going. But people don't really understand that when they jump into entrepreneurship from the start, something that they should really understand.
Yeah, I actually made a video about that the other day on my YouTube channel.
Really?
And that's what I was saying. If you have a government job or something like that, then you're in a far better position than some entrepreneurs, because this is hard. Mm-hmm. Being an entrepreneur is hard. And when I say it's hard, I'm not saying that it's not possible. I'm not saying
Correct.
that it's not lucrative, because you and
it's hard.
I have been successful at it. But
no, it's hard.
But you have to be resilient. Like you said, you're gonna fail.
Right.
You will fail. You have to be able to pivot, man.
But that goes to mindset too, that you were talking about earlier.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Because again, if you have a flawed view that it's just going to be peaches and cream.
Oh no.
Then, you pretty much setting yourself up for failure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's going to be hard. And that's what you have to start with. Okay.
What would you say business-wise for entrepreneurs? What are typically some of the most reasons for failure initially? What would you think?
Well, I think,
and let me preface this way. I've seen entrepreneurs with money and had financial backing yet fail.
Okay, well, that's what I was about to say, because they didn't prepare properly. See, a lot of times people think that they can throw money at something.
Correct.
And they think that throwing money at it will make them successful. If you don't plan, then you plan to fail, basically.
Correct.
And you have to have a plan. And so what I always tell people, man, is that you have to do the numbers. Mm-hmm. Beyond the dream,
Correct.
People say that, I'm gonna start a business, I'm gonna have Bentleys. Well, let's do the numbers behind it. What kind of business are you starting, first of all? Then Let's do the numbers behind that industry, and let's do some analysis about the entire industry. And then,
Right.
once you start breaking down those numbers and giving people a realistic outlook, then what you have to do is you can't be just confined to one thing,
Correct.
Like you mentioned, serial entrepreneur, there's a lot to be said about that because, people say, well, why don't you just focus on one thing? Well, what if I was in real estate right now?
Correct.
You see what I mean? And,
You would have to have a multiple stream of income right now.
right. So, you have to be able to pivot.
Correct. And that's one of the things that entrepreneurs that are starting a business, getting a business, don't understand the ability to swivel, to move, especially with what's going on in the economy, what's going on with pricing, what's going on with information. One of the things that I had to learn early on is that I didn't know everything.
Right.
And it caused me to bring in the expert to do what they do. I spent a lot of time mastering what I know how to do, but I will leave that to the experts. I've never gotten into the technical aspect of my business. I've always brought in a technical person.
I'm going to tell you, Steve, don't mean to interrupt you, but one of the biggest problems that I had starting off as an entrepreneur is that I loved it so much is that I wanted to do everything.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to be the accountant. I wanted
That's
to be
hard.
everything. And see, to your point about why a lot of entrepreneurs fail, is not always a lack of money. It's because, you fail to give up some of the control.
Correct.
Like you just pointed out. Let the expert be the expert.
And I'm not
and delegate.
And I'm not an accountant.
Right.
So if I had to do the accounting on our business, we would fail from my accounting.
Right.
And I knew that. And I learned that early on. And so my advice to individuals is to, as you're going into business, or if you're already in business, is to make sure that you bring in the experts that do that. Now, fortunately for entrepreneurs in 2026, there are an enormous amount of AI tools, accounting apps, back office applications, cash flow, you name it. You have AI apps now that do it all. And now what you have to do is begin to master understanding what those tools are and incorporating them into your business. Because if you're not doing that, now you're going to be left behind by the other businesses that are incorporating AI into their business structure.
So here's what I've found, Steve. Not everyone is lazy, but
Correct.
Some people are just intimidated by certain things like technology, right?
Correct.
And again, that's what opens up the market for the implementer.
Correct.
See, because, AI is AI, but you still need people to help you implement it.
True.
And, I know that, for you, because, you're a researcher. So, you're the type of person that'll take the time and you'll go down a rabbit hole and you'll
All
learn
the
it.
way.
You know what I mean? But
That's my
everybody
wife.
is not like that.
Yeah, that's my wife.
So,
I'm all the way down the rabbit hole.
Even though we have these tools that make life easier, people are intimidated by the technology,
Right.
and so.
So
people
when,
go-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say there's always going to be, that fear, no matter how easy it, appears to be or how easy it is, you're going to always have people that are going to be deterred by just the technology aspect of it.
In your bio of some of the topics you speak on, you talk about high performance habits. What does that mean, having a high performance habit?
Okay, so one of the things that I do every day is I run 3 miles a day.
3 miles.
3 miles a day.
Oh,
and
boy.
the reason why I run 3 miles a day, Steve, is not so much because of the exercise, but because I found that running, there's always that little man in your head that's always giving you reasons to stop.
Oh,
Always giving you reasons why
I
you
like
should
that.
quit.
I like that.
Greg, your shin is hurting. Oh, man, you ain't got to run 3 miles a day. Oh, your side hurting. So if you can overcome that little man in your head running in my run every morning, then I could easily overcome him throughout the rest of the day in every aspect of my life.
That's a very good analogy. I like that.
So those high performance habits are disciplines that keep me true to my word because, so when I say I live by honor, respect, loyalty, and my word, I don't just mean that to other people, but I live by my word to myself.
Very good way to put it.
So if I accomplish something,
So are you your worst critic?
I would say yes, because let me just give you a scenario here. So, when people talk about masters, right? Like, I don't consider myself a master, but no master considers himself a master. Other people bestow that title upon them because masters are always students.
Correct.
Yeah, and
That is true.
you might hear Steph Curry or LeBron James after the game. They say, how would you rate your performance? They say, C plus. But you looking like, dang, man, you hit 50 points. You see what I mean?
And he feel like he could have did better.
And see, that goes back to mindset again.
Okay.
Because, if you're your own worst critic, like you just said, if you place your expectations higher than everybody else's, you'll automatically exceed everybody else's.
What are some of high performance habits do you think just general entrepreneurs can start that have a real extremely busy day, They don't sleep at night much. What could they do to create a high performance habit?
So I talk about this a lot in transformation. My day starts, I start people off with just making your bed up in the morning.
Why is that?
Just get up and practice doing something that you normally don't do right away.
Okay.
Just practice making your bed up in the morning.
I never heard that. My wife would love that.
Yeah.
of me.
Yeah, get up in the morning and make your bed up because so small wins, and I can get really deep into the small win thing. But
I like that though. I like that. I like
but
celebrating
the small wins build confidence.
Okay.
Okay. So if you make up your bed as soon as you get up, that's your first win for the day.
Okay.
You see? And so what we're doing is building blocks of habits.
Okay.
And so not everyone can start off with high performance is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. That makes sense.
You just have to start off with productive habits, doing what you say you're going to do. Get your mind trained to do what you say you're going to do.
Okay, good. And I'm glad you touched on those small victories. Let's talk a little bit about persons celebrating small victories. What does that actually mean?
Well, it's a double-edged sword. And what I mean by that is that the game, let's take chess for example, right?
And I love to play chess.
That's right. So that's why I wanted to use that as an analogy. So life punishes emotional people, and chess punishes emotional people too, just like life, right?
That's true.
And so one of the emotional things about winning is that you lose focus because you think that you've won. And life can trick you that way.
Okay.
Sometimes the small wins could deter you, get you off your swivel, get you off point. And so you have to really be careful with wins, with small wins. You can't become emotional over wins.
You can't take that as the biggest win.
No, you have to
It's
keep that in
part of the
perspective and
process.
control the wins.
Okay.
Although wins serve their purpose, now they build confidence,
Correct.
but you can't lose focus with
Right.
the win.
Right.
And that happens in chess a lot of times.
It does.
If I take your queen, I got him now.
You got him.
I got him now. I'm relaxed now. You come back and checkmate. What?
And I have done that and have gotten done that way.
Right?
Okay.
And so through your experiences, you've learned that just because you take somebody's queen,
Correct.
that you haven't won the game.
You have
that
not won the
You
game.
still have to stay focused.
So you can get overexcited on that small win, but you can use it as a stepping stone to do what? The small win.
to
on the
build
flip
confidence.
Side. Okay.
Yeah, small wins give you confidence, no doubt. But what I said is a double-edged sword.
Right.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, but small wins, no doubt, are necessary. Like I was talking about making your bed in the morning, getting up, making your bed in the morning. And you just go from there. Then you walk around the block. If you're trying to work out, then you walk a mile. It's just steps. But each step of the wins give you confidence.
Gotcha.
It builds your confidence. They make you feel, I can do this. I can do it.
Good. Okay. I think that's something to process for entrepreneurs because it's hard. And for me, a small win gives me confidence, and I try and build off on it myself. I don't try and go the other way and think I've conquered anything. But yeah, real good. Let's talk about another subject as it relates to business owners and entrepreneurs. You have a little bit knowledge of asset protection, correct? For an individual that's in business, what is some of the advice you probably could pass on to them as it relates to protecting their business assets or even personal assets?
Okay, so asset protection so you have revocable trust, you have irrevocable trust.
Okay,
let's just start with that. And those really the only two types of trusts that there are, although they have family and all these other names attached to them. So what a revocable trust, people use that mostly in estate planning. Okay. But it's not asset protection. Asset protection is normally an irrevocable trust.
Okay.
But why it's important is because you don't want succession planning, okay? So, when you die, you want your assets to be able to transfer smoothly without going through probate. So estate planning is a part of that, but you want to protect your assets as well, because oftentimes, even with the revocable trust, people still have probate issues. So setting up like you can set up a domestic asset protection trust. Let's just say with a Wyoming holding company under it, and then you can have your assets in LLCs, like your real estate in LLC, your business in a LLC, and that allows you to operate it.
What would be the reason for these structures in the first place? Why would someone, for an entrepreneur that feel pretty safe with operating from an LLC or corporation, why would they need to protect their asset?
Yeah, from lawsuits, especially if you are in a high liability type of profession, like if you're a doctor or if you're a dentist, chiropractor, all of those types. Even if you just own property, somebody might slip and fall in your property, or you own a convenience store, somebody gets shot in your parking lot. You want to separate the asset entity from your personal self. Okay? You want to own nothing but control everything.
Gotcha.
In a sense. And that's asset protection. And, there's ways to do it domestically. I know oftentimes, when people hear about asset protection, they think about offshore only. But, there are certain jurisdictions here in the United States that provide asset protection.
Right.
And, if you just decide you want to go offshore, there's certain facilitators that can do transfer it into an offshore trust. It's called a bridge trust.
A bridge trust. So now not a family, but an entrepreneur who has a family, and then they have personal items. Is it one set trust for both the business and the personal, or is that something that they would create different vehicles for?
Okay. So the way it works is that you have the trust. The trust owns your holding company. And basically what a holding company is just multiple LLCs under the holding company. All right. So they're LLCs owned by a holding company. Okay.
Right.
So to answer your question, each of those, like you might have your automobiles in one LLC. You might have your real estate assets in another LLC.
Okay.
And so that's the way that will work. And it allows you to control it because, so with the irrevocable trust, the trustee actually controls, if you were to put them directly into a trust.
Okay.
Okay. Then the trustee would actually control it. But if you set it up to where the trust owns the holding company, then you have access to do what you want to do with your assets.
Gotcha.
Company. But the trust company owns the holding company. And then there's other nuances to it too. Like for instance, we use a Wyoming for the LLC.
And I know there's a lot of people are big in using the Wyoming. At one point, it was Delaware.
Well, no, that's just for the LLCs. But for the trust, we might use South Dakota.
Oh, really?
Because there's asset protection, just like as if you were offshore.
So the LLC is Wyoming, and that's because in Wyoming, is that based on the ability to conceal
privacy?
Your privacy,
okay. Taxes. There's a lot of privacy issues that the information that they don't have to divulge.
Because when someone's trying to sue you, it's all about locating your assets and information.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Right.
Very good practice. Why is that an urgent matter for people to pay attention to right now?
Well, because right now you just never know what's going to happen, And I know people say tomorrow, but tomorrow can turn into 30 years.
Right.
And so with asset protection, you just, especially if you have children, you have a family, you're trying to put together a succession planning, governance, family governance to where your assets transfer smoothly. That's something that you definitely want to do. And another thing that we do, we can put your insurance policy, your whole life cash value insurance policy into a LLC, and we can create your own bank for you.
Really?
Yeah, where you actually see, because have you ever heard of this buy, borrow, die strategy?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so what that is rich people, the reason they don't pay taxes is because they just borrow
their own
from
money.
their equity. Or their equity in real estate. A lot of times, or like let's just use Elon Musk, right?
Correct.
So Elon Musk owns stock in Tesla. He owns stock in SpaceX now. He owns stock in other companies.
Right.
Yeah, the value of his stock goes up.
And he borrows money off his stock.
He just borrows money off his stock. You don't pay taxes on borrowed money.
Correct.
So if you on cash value insurance policies, you can borrow from yourself.
Okay.
You can take out a policy loan. So you build up the cash value.
Now, is that policy set in the company's name or the individual's name?
Well, you can do it in both.
Do it in both. Okay.
Right. But okay, so with corporate insurance, let's just say you and I were business partners. I could take out an insurance. Normally, an insurance policy can only be taken out on a relative, right? But
Correct.
in business insurance, it's different
On your
because
partner.
we have an interest.
Correct.
Right. And so I could take out a policy on you. You could take out a policy on me. But let's keep it simple.
Okay.
Let's just say that I have a grandchild, right? Let's just say that I'm a 70-year-old man and my health is not good enough to get approved for a life insurance policy of $5 million, right?
Right.
Well, I don't have to take out a life insurance policy on myself. I can take it out on my grandchild. And I can just build up the cash value. I could, a low death benefit with a high cash value. And now all the money I'm putting in there, I can just borrow. I can use it as my bank.
So basically, structuring an insurance policy that has the capability of loaning money to its basically title holder is basically how many people deal with their taxation.
Absolutely. And we just put the insurance policy right under LLC, also under the holding company, which is owned by the trust.
Got you.
So if, unfortunate demise, you won't have
Business
any
partners
problems.
covered and the family's covered, and then it's
And
still
the
in.
transferability of it.
And and then can you actually create who is the beneficiaries? Are there multiple beneficiaries in a business insurance structure or just the
It
partners?
depends on whoever has an interest.
Ah,
It's just like, blood relatives. I have an interest in my granddaughter. She's my blood.
correct.
So I could take out a policy on her. I could take out a policy on my whole family.
Right. That
And that's
sounds
what rich families do.
right.
And that's why they're able to keep the principal going. They don't deplete the principal. They don't spend the principal because they don't have a problem with that. This is something that's discussed,
Right.
with them.
Right, correct.
Whereas us, it's kind of taboo to talk about insurance policies.
Correct. Yeah, you don't want
Nobody wants to talk about that until it's
Yeah.
time to pay for the funeral.
Yeah, and that's a bad practice. That's really
Right.
bad practice.
But insurance is business.
Correct.
Yeah, it's a big part of the financial
Wow,
markets.
that's another segment I'm going to have to call you back on, don't you? Because I really like to jump in even deeper with that because, again, for our listeners, we've always made it clear that we're committed to giving them nuggets that can help them enhance their business, help them enhance their capabilities of moving forward, scaling their business, literally acquisition to delivery, all of the above. So all this information is really helpful. If you were able to just give them a nugget to Google, ChatGPT, what would that be as it relates to structuring themselves with an insurance policy and or Wyoming Corporation, anything in the asset protection? What could help them if they didn't want to hire someone?
Okay, they can just Google, domestic asset protection.
Okay.
And put in IBC. That means insurance banking concept.
Okay.
That's becoming your own bank.
Great.
Just put in domestic asset protection trust and put in insurance banking concepts. And that in of itself will just, it'll send you down a road of curiosity to where you would be able to, research other topics that would make you become well versed. If
Right.
you just went down the rabbit hole, it will give you enough information to start.
Awesome. Man, I tell you, this has been really good. I really appreciate you coming. I know we could keep going because on your resume, there's a lot more in your resume. And what I want to do is bring you back to expound on more of information that you have that we could share with our listeners. We're going to be doing this for a lot of segments, and I definitely want you to come back. But I just want you to know how much we appreciate you. I know my listeners appreciate the information that you shared. And for me, if just one individual learns something, we've reached our goal here.
Yeah.
We have a community that we're building. And, of course, we want you to join our community at Beyond Potential. And individuals like Greg Thomas is in our community with the ability to share this information, post this information, and really allow you to go deeper into it. But again, remember, we want you to subscribe. We want you to like so that we can create more content and bring it to you. And once again, thank you for spending time with us at Beyond Potential and Greg Thomas. We appreciate it.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Likewise.
Thank you for having me.
Tell my listeners one last point of thought. I don't care what it is, and I know I'm hitting you on a blind spot, but what would you say to my listeners? Word of encouragement.
It is not the critic who counts, not the one who points out how the strong man stumbles or whether the doer of deeds could have done them better. Credit belongs to the man who was actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, tears, who comes up short again and again, but he's still resilient. He still bounced back from misfortune. And that's the type of tenacity and that's the type of mindset that you have to have.
Man, I like that.
Man in
I
the
know
arena.
you do too. Thanks, Greg. We appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks a lot for joining us. We'll see you soon.
My pleasure.